Hello. I'm Ruchika from Digital Mafia Talkies. And firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on Ekam. And I had a chance to watch it. And I'm really excited about the representation. And I wish there would be something like that for the Uttar Kannada district as well, because I'm from there. But leaving that aside, thank you for joining me today. And I'm excited to know more about Ekam.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Great. Thanks for having us.
So if you want to say something about the show first before I start off my questions.
No, I think you've seen the show, so thank you for watching the show. I think that's been the main effort for us.
I can imagine.
So So I mean, I'm curious to know what you thought of the show and if you have any questions or what your perspectives were, because we didn't really have a chat about that.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it takes a while to kind of understand each episode, I'd say, and I found that really interesting. I don't think many Indian series have that capability.
Right, 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 right.
All right, then I'll start with my questions. So,
Sure.
Ekam's a very grounded TV show, and there's nothing really glamorous about it, but it tells regular stories with a little twist. So, what inspired you to tell these stories, and how much of a personal touch gets added into this kind of thing?
Right. Sumanth, you want to go?
No, I think the inspiration was the place in itself, first and foremost, because just to give you some context, Sandeep heads Journeyman Films. So I had worked with them, with Sandeep and his team, on a short film, and both of us really enjoyed the collaboration, and we wanted to collaborate more. And even that short film was set in Udupi, in my hometown, and so in the due course where we are working together on the post production of the film, and we have had this constant conversation of what do we do with that particular short film, and how do we collaborate more and all that. So through that came Ekam, actually. No, through that came out the possibility of why not explore a region in its entirety, through its language, through its culture, through its food and all that, and maybe doing it in this anthology format, exploring through different stories. You can explore a different genre, you can explore a different dialect. So that kind of seemed a lot more exciting for us, where the place becomes the center point, and then you kind of weave stories around that and explore that place in its fullest essence. So I think that was the starting point, that short film and our collaboration. And yeah, so that was the starting point of Ekam. Your second question of how much of a personal touch is it?
Yes.
Personal touch, I mean, I think everybody brings in their in the writing stage, the writer brings in whatever, because you have the story, and then when you're writing the screenplay, there's a lot of personal elements that come in terms of the characterizations or the plays, whatever. And then I think with every collaborator who comes on board, there's a level of personalization, especially when the actors come in, because a lot of these actors that feature here are all locals. I mean, almost 99% of them are locals here. So incredible amount of improvisations have happened, incredible amount of feedback, or a collaborative process has happened during the shoot with these actors, where they would say, why not do this, because I used to do this in my childhood, or this happened to my father, and things like that. So that way I think it ended up being very personal to a lot of the cast and crew members.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sandeep, anything to add to that?
I think it's a lot of colliding of perspectives, but at the same time, I think where we connected was the theme of each episode and the theme of what we were trying to go for, with the liberty of no limitations really. I mean, someone like a Rakshit was kind enough to not put any sort of a roof on our creativity or the fact that it has to work a certain way or fit a certain format. So we had absolute liberty. So I think. Which could also lead to the kind of format we've chosen. It's not your typical series bingeable, because I don't know if we were thinking of all those things. We were really saying, hey, how far can we push? Do we all agree that this is this is something we're excited by? But I think
Sounds
we've
so nice in hindsight, but sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
yeah, in hindsight, I think we're all paying the price for it. But I don't think there are any regrets, maybe only learnings. But yeah.
Yeah, you
So
shouldn't have any either.
Mhm.
So, you spoke about why you called the TV show Ekam in another interview, and I found that really compelling. So, were you balancing any other options for the title before that?
uh, no, no, no. We really didn't. I mean, that was the first word that someone came up with. We knew the idea, right? We were very clear on what the idea needs to stand for because we had sort of um, locked on the theme, on what we want to say with the show. So, words, we kind of knew the concept, but we didn't have a word. And Sumanth came up with the word Ekam and it just fit perfectly, right? So, we didn't really have other title options, but yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the reference points that we had was not for the title, but in terms of what the show should stand for was strangely Mile Sur Mera Tumhara, that entire song of what it did to the entire country.
Right.
Okay, so that idea, I mean, Ekam is also representative of that same idea. It's an extension of that same song.
Yeah, I
So
see.
yeah, we don't have many options, but we knew the core idea of what the show should stand for. So that way also our search for the title was very limited, I think.
That's fair. So you spoke about Mile Sur Mera Tumhara. So, Ekam might be a Kannada show upfront, but it's clearly loaded with diversity. So how did that come about? Like, how did you go about bringing the team together and such?
Yeah, I think Sumanth and I, after we made a short film together, when we explored the idea of a series and we decided we want to do it, I think it was sort of native to us to sort of reach out to our network and the people that we have worked with in the past. And also, I'm from LV Prasad Film School in Chennai. So I had this whole, access to a bunch of filmmakers who had either studied with me or were my juniors or seniors and so on and so forth. So for us, it was never about, hey, we need people from the region beyond a point. Because I had Sumant along with me as a showrunner and a creator of the show, who is from the space, we had enough access. Like, for example, with production design, we went with someone from the space for costume and all of that, right? So for everything else, for us, it was like as long as the skill set fits what we're going for. And to make sure that people understand the space, we also had everyone come over, regardless of even, in fact, even our editor joined us 3 months before shoot started, right? So we tried as much for everyone to sort of immerse themselves in the space because for us it was very important that the show reflects the personality of Karavali because that was our goal with this season, right? So otherwise, I think we have people on the team from at least 5 or 6 states. It's really all over.
Yeah,
And the only thing that mattered was were they able to get it and did their skill set actually deliver at the level that we wanted. Right?
yeah, that's true Ekam.
Yeah.
So, speaking of diversity, there's an episode in Tulu and an episode in Malayalam. I
Yeah.
specifically want to know how the Tulu one came about, and that episode itself is so deep, and it like keeps you thinking a lot after you've watched it. Why did you decide to do that specific episode in a language that is relatively unknown, especially for people outside of Karnataka?
No, because the choice of story itself, no, Ruchika, like say if you're talking about a hunter who is living within the forest, on the borders of the forest in the Western Ghats region of Dakshin Kannada, then it cannot be anything but Tulu. I mean, those people do not speak anything but Tulu, and a lot of them do not even understand. So they speak broken Kannada, but Tulu is there. Tulu is there. Uh, so it would be a very, I mean, the moment, like say, with every call, every decision, every call that we've taken with the show was, trying to be as true to the place as possible in terms of everything, in terms of casting, in terms of the choice of a dialect for a particular film. So we have chosen actors from that region who speak that dialect and things like that. So the moment we knew that this story is about a hunter who is kind of coming to terms with the fast moving world and all that. So the choice of the story being around a hunter made it kind of Tulu was the only option that we had. So, and we thought that's a fantastic opportunity for us to kind of not force fit a language into the series, but the choice of the story kind of fit perfectly into the overall curation, but also this larger idea of exploring a place in its entire form, language and dialect being one of them.
Fair enough.
And Malayalam also, like I say, I've studied in a school here, which back then at least had 50-60% of the faculty who are Malayalis. And there are a lot of Malayalis who have kind of moved down, because for them, I think it's just an extension of Kerala in terms of the topography and the culture and food and all that. No, so I think it's more natural. So a lot of Malayalis here have moved down to Udupi, Mangalore. You bump into a lot of them who have now kind of settled down here. This is their home, not even second home. This is their home now. So again, that we thought was a very natural this thing. I mean, of course, if you go further, we have Konkani, we have Bari. There's so many things that we have considered also, but there's only so much you can do with the seven stories. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that episode. It's quite I don't know, profound. It gives you like a profound reaction for sure. Um, so as I was saying before, I did get to watch Mithya during Mami, and this question's for you, Suman, specifically. It's clear you have a distinct style of storytelling and have to represent your region. From all your answers, I've also noticed that. But how did you find this niche for yourself, and what compelled you to tell these stories?
Uh, Niche, I mean, I have not yet figured it out. I think Udit, my DOP, is a big contribution that way on that front, because we have together explored and kind of arrived at a form for both of these films. It's not like at least the Void episode was written more or less for that form, but Mithya, I think we arrived at a form. We had a script, but we're not very sure of how we are going to do it. There are 2 or 3 options we're considering. So Udit has a major role to play in most of my work so far. Okay, but I think it's just one of the major influences for me when I was starting out filmmaking was the Dardian brothers, the films of Dardian brothers. So I think, and their influence shows also in terms of the texture of the film and the rhythm and the pacing. So that, yeah, otherwise, I mean, I just used to consume so much films after my engineering and during my IT days. And that kind of, somewhere I think those were the influences, and in some places I think they also show that. But I'm yet to figure out what my voice is, my strength is, and things like that. So I'm on that journey. Hopefully, I'll figure it out sooner than later. But I
I
don't know if
think
I answered your question, but yeah.
you have. I think Ekam has definitely, I think it's a big part of that journey. And I see when you said that the place itself becomes the theme of the story, I can really see that with the 7 episodes. Um, so each episode is barely 30 minutes, and there's so much happening in each one. I noticed that they mostly have ambiguous endings. So what was scripting these episodes like?
Scripting was fun. Yeah, I mean, now again, like I mentioned that, I mean, hindsight, I think it's too ambiguous and too cryptic, and maybe we should have been a little more considerate of the audience. But back then, it was just like, say, for example, in any of those episodes, or in Void for that matter, Void, you leave it at a point where the audience knows what has happened. Going or prodding any further than that didn't make any sense. You leave it at a point where the audience is also absorbing it and kind of trying to figure out for themselves, saying, what the larger theme was about. So, and I mean, if you're talking about films like tradition, yeah, we have just gone bonkers. We have taken all the liberty that we had, and with nobody telling us, no, don't do this, or this line is not to be crossed. We thought there is no line. And kind of, we're just going all out, and we are like, acha, what if we do this and what if we do that, and things like that. There was no, I mean, we did not set out wanting each of these films to be cryptic. But yeah, now that you mention, yeah, there is identity is cryptic in its own way, and tradition is cryptic in its own way.
After we chose that season 1 of Ekam is going to be Karavali, to give you some context, right? So the decision was, okay, if we have to represent a place, then it has to, when you think about Bangalore, it feels a certain way. When you think about Bombay, it feels a certain way. Chennai feels a certain way, right? So the idea was, how do we make you feel what we think Karavali is, right? So that before choosing stories, that led us to a curation, right? And that curation is not the current order of episodes, but the curation was based on the life cycle of a person, right? And tradition was the first episode in that order, right? So there, the idea of tradition from outside of the story lens, before we found the story, was that, hey, you and I, three of us on this call might speak different languages, eat different food, and might even treat people a certain way based on the tradition of the families we were born into, not really by choice, right? Till you, of course, reach a certain intellect and all that, and you start, you have a certain worldview that changes. So tradition was born with that lens. So we had a lens for each episode, which was sort of based on the life cycle of a person. So based on that, that became the driver of every decision on each film, right? So if we had identity, we knew that, hey, it has to lend to this part of the curation, and that lens has to be, communicated through the entire thing. So whether it's at a screenplay level, or whether it's a choice of treatment or choice of, everything, it had some sort of influence on everything. So that's where because we had like 15 stories, 12 or 15 stories, out of which these 7 was chosen for this curation. So in terms of ambiguity, I think that has a lot to do with, like I was telling you earlier, the liberty / naivety as filmmakers with so much freedom that, even with tradition, unfortunately, I think a lot of the viewers are still missing the point we were trying to make, and that's because of the liberty that we've taken. So in hindsight, I think we've actually lost a lot of what we were trying to tell them. It's becoming like most of our viewers right now are thinking that tradition is, we're actually trying to say that there's a real tradition like that, right?
Oh,
But we're not saying that. We're really saying that, we're trying to say it's a metaphorical idea, right? That you and I might have died a couple of times in our own houses for in the name of love or in the name of career. Sumanth and I have definitely died in the name of career once, right? I have friends who have died, in the name of love, right? So we're trying to talk about that, because of what seems right around you or your family or your society, a part of you has to die for that, right? That's what we were trying to talk about. But of course, we are to blame because we didn't make it easy at all, right?
so
Uh,
yeah, I myself found that episode a little bit confusing, and now that you've
yeah.
explained it, it makes full sense. Yeah, but uh, leaving that
Yeah.
aside, it's still an entertaining episode. But I'd say my favorite one was Legacy for sure. I don't- it has uh it's so dark. So that really appealed to me for some reason. So, but I don't know if you felt a different way about making it. But
Uh,
sorry, please go on.
no, I was just about to say that, we've had no way of predicting which episode,
Yeah.
people are going to like, because, like I told you, we had this original order of tradition being the first episode and identity being the last episode. And I think 5 days before the launch, Sumant,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
5 days before the launch, we were like, okay, we're going to give one last shot to reordering, because we had tried 4 or 5 times and given up. And we reordered it simply because we knew if we start with tradition, we knew we're going to lose like 90% of the audience right there. And we're going to be like, never come back to watch anything else. So we reordered it. But what I was trying to say is, going in, we thought, there are these few episodes that are going to resonate and a few that are not going to, right? But with the response we've been getting from the viewers, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag. There are a few people who like, tradition, identity, and delusion, simply because of, they're reading the metaphors, and they're tripping on that. there's a whole other set of people who like the realistic nature of Masquerade and Void and Legacy. Legacy, I think, according to us, was not very on top of the list. We were really thinking that, I mean, to be honest, Sumanth and I have had conversations, up until the day of launch, wondering whether we should take off Legacy, should we reorder it, so
Well,
yeah, there's no saying.
I'm glad I make you feel like confident about putting that out there. Yeah. So Sandeep, what's the next step for Ekam? Are there any plans for season 2? Because you have a website of your own now. What's gonna be next?
Uh, Okay, so next is basically, I don't know. I don't know if Sumanth and I are really thinking about season 2 right now, because what's clear and out there is that we were not able to secure distribution for Ekam, right? Our reasons are whatever they are, because of the market language was not too popular on OTTs at that point. But for us to think of season 2, I think right now is a far thing, because we're really trying to focus on making our next feature. Suman's writing a feature, I'm writing a feature, and that's what we're tripping on right now. But I don't think we'll ever turn away an opportunity to make season 2. Except right now, for us, we've spent maybe 3.5, 4 years with season 1 trying to get it. I mean, and you should realize that we spent 1.5 years doing everything. We made it in 1.5 years, right? The next 2.5 years have been trying to find a way to get it out, right? So for us, now that it's out there, our we really have to make the next thing. So whether that's season 2 or something else, right now it seems like it's something else. Season 2, I think the right opportunity comes by 100%.
Ekam, by the way, Ruchika was done before Mithya.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ekam was done 2020-21, and after that we had Ekam ready, and nothing was happening, and then I went on, made Mithya, then came back, nothing was happening with Ekam. So yeah, Ekam's
so it was shot during the lockdown, is it?
Yeah.
immediately after the first lockdown, before the second lockdown. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's been the struggle. So
Which was the favorite episode to film and to script for both of you?
for me personally, Void, both in terms of filming and scripting, I think I found my calling and my voice as a director to some extent there. And that was the last of the 4 episodes that we shot. Okay. And even in terms of writing, I think it was very fulfilling, because the film evolved from a very basic one-line story into a lot more. I mean, there's so many layers which might come through or might not come through in the film. But in writing phase, I think I really enjoyed writing, and then seeing an actor like Basuma Kodugu just live the character and come alive in front of the camera. No? That for me is one of the most fulfilling aspects of my filmmaking, short filmmaking career so far. So yeah, for me it's Void, for both writing and directing.
Yeah, I think just because you're speaking to Pallavi later, yeah, because she was an absolute gem that we found out of nowhere, right? She was actually Basuma Kodugu, who was the actor on Void, who he was also the production designer on all of our films, right? So we found Pallavi because we were shooting another promo for Ekam, and we needed someone, and we asked him, "Hey, do you think your daughter will be available?" And she came like that, and I think I didn't go the first day. They took a shot of her, and everyone came back saying, "Hey, I think we found Manjula for flight. I think we found her." And then she was just so comfortable in front of the camera. So she was a find out of nowhere, and I think she has a bright future ahead. She's
Yeah,
incredible.
she really is. And it's so that episode is kind of like comedic, and I feel like it's so difficult to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And that episode does that really well. So
Yeah, yeah, and that episode also, that film also for me is special because it constantly evolved in so many ways. Because that whole form of the subtitle being a way where you can read her thoughts, that was really found on the post. Initially, it was intended to be slightly different, so it evolved so many times that it's almost like an experiment, and it's sort of that film, regardless of all these different favorites, it's on every list. So everyone likes that film for sure. So that's been very interesting.
Okay, that makes sense. So, speaking of comedy, I quite enjoyed Masquerade. How hard was it to get a celebrity like Rajvi Shetty on for a project like this, like for a passion project like this?
Yeah, no, not hard at all, actually. One is, I think, is very forthcoming at that point to kind of collaborate with the like-minded directors and all that at that point, because now he's gotten busy, of course. But second, also with the larger idea of what we are going after. And then he read the synopsis and he immediately said yes. He did initially have inhibition, saying because he was also working on his film or something. But he, I think, read the screenplay and then got an idea of what we are going after, the larger thing, and he immediately said yes. So he came on board, and then the film completely changed, because I think that's the only film among all these films where a character was written for an actor. That was the only film. So we had Raj before he wrote the screenplay, and same with the Mr. Prakash Raj also. Though it was so easy, just the moment we told him the larger idea of Ekam and what we are going after, and we told him the synopsis, he was on.
Also, I think at that point we had this, because because of how new we were to the whole thing, nothing could stop us. We had this energy that everyone's one conversation away.
I mean, it's been like 4 years and y'all are still so excited about it. And I think that really shows in the show.
All of us involved would be very extremely proud of what we have achieved within the budget constraints, within the time limit, through COVID and all that. It's incredible. I mean, I'm very proud of what we have done. Yeah. So it's been a learning. It has taught us so much, without a doubt. Everybody involved, we have a lot of them have moved on to their respective films and all that. But I think everybody looks back at Ekam very fondly, because like Sandeep said, everybody had come down 3 months before, 4 months before. We're all living together of the same house and all that. So shooting it was extremely fun.
Yeah, so as filmmakers, I think there's nothing that I would take away or change about it, right? Because the fact remains that your execution needs time to meet your imagination, right? In any art form, right? And this is just our first series, and Sumanth's made a film, I made to make a feature, right? So it's only going to get better. They're only going to get closer to our imagination. The only thing that we didn't anticipate at all, or even learn or understand at all, it was the business side of something, right? So that took a toll, because we really thought we'll make it and the whole world is going to lap it up and we're going to shake hands and make season 2. We had season 2 planned, location planned, had scouted some stories, and we were ready to, make it, spend 6 months, hand it over, and move on to season 2. That's why we were,
Yeah. The fact that, see, you ask what happened to Mithya after 3 years of its making or 2 years of its making, and then we are talking about Ekam 4 years after it was made. That itself is the struggle, Ruchika, to kind of see if we can shorten that gap of execution and distribution.
Yeah,
because making it is a lot more easier, but kind of how do you get it to an audience? Even now with Ekam, I don't think we have touched even 10% of our audience.
I would say 10. I would say 10. I would say less than 1 or 2% of our audience.
Yeah. Because again, we cannot compete with the big feature films, and because they're spending money. So how do you get the audience attention? How do you put the word out that a show like this is out and all that? So it's a learning every day. It's a realization that just putting it out on a website again is not done. If you do not have to market it, and if you do not set aside budget, then you might as well not do it, because there's no point doing it. Having your own OTT or platform or website or whatever. No, end of the day, if the audience does not know that a show like this is out, then there's no point to it.
Yeah, but it's just to say that, making a film in India, there's this stat, I don't know how accurate it is, that, 98% of the films that are made in India don't get released, right? So our struggle was to become somehow part of the 2% that does get released. So making a film in India is not the struggle really. That's the first step. but getting it out there, because without that, without an audience, you don't exist. You really don't exist.
Well, I think we're short on time. So,
Yeah.
if you had any last words in 1 minute, why should people watch Ekam?
Ekam is a cool representation of a place. And
Yeah.
our inspiration was always Malgudi days. That even though it was a fictional space, everyone could relate. And our whole idea was, what if we introduced you to a place with each new season? Season one Karavali and season two maybe Himachal. So that's how we went about it. And I think we've done a half decent job. It might not be your typical entertainer for sure, but I think it'll definitely make you think, and maybe that's worth a shot. And it's only 149 rupees, so it's cheaper than a pack of cigarettes. So maybe go for it.
I think, I mean, for good or for bad, but I don't think you have a series like this on the Indian OTT as yet. Something. So it's very original. It's very original. You might like it, you might not like it. That's debatable. But it's very original, and at least for that, I think people should go and watch it. And even if you find 3 films, 4 films entertaining, I think you've got your money's worth.
I agree.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope more people will watch Ekam now.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
We
thank you. Thank you for
hope
doing
that
this.
people discover Ekam and
Yes.
there's nothing more that we as the creators would want. We only want the films to reach out to an audience, because whatever little number that has seen Ekam and the reactions has been absolutely, kind of very heartening, very heartwarming also.
Yeah.
So we hope more people watch it.